Let's talk about the European's General Data Protection Regulation. GDPR is going to pose a number of, I'm going to call them obstacles right now, although perhaps none that can't be overcome in the long term. But for one, GDPR presents certain compliance obligations to data controllers, or those with the authority to direct the purposes and means by which data is processed. But in a blockchain environment, first we have to decide who the controller is. And that's going to depend on how the blockchain itself is governed, so the overall governance structure, the government documentation surrounding that blockchain. It could be that one node is a controller. It could be that multiple nodes are joint controllers. It could be that none of the nodes are controllers at all. So those are the sorts of issues that GDPR presents at the outset. And also the California Consumer Privacy Act, or the CCPA, also provides individual or consumer rights. One of those is the right to erasure. So remember, we talked about the blockchain being immutable. In other words, once data is placed on there, it stays on there, it's unchanging. That may run afoul of any consumer or data subject right to erasure, or the right to have their data ported from one provider to another. And then when you step back from the CCPA and the GDPR, and you look at other domestic regimes, the FTC, for example, requires certain notices and consents and opt-out rights, depending on the data that we're talking about and the industry involved. Various other regulators have data retention obligations. And so I think a lot of this is going to play out in the courts going forward. This apparent conflict between new technologies like artificial intelligence and blockchain in this case, and the GDPR, for example, are not going to be resolved overnight. It's going to be a slow roll as courts and regulators alike decide these issues going forward.